Everything we need already exists inside of us. We hold the key to open the door to discover who we are and why we exist. Conversations help us find that truth. Relationships are vital. IDKY hopes to ignite your curiosity and perhaps give you courage to open the door. Welcome to the IDKY podcast, where we honestly do not know yet. Today, Shawn Schaefer is with us to share his remarkable story, to give us some greater perspective and personal insights. He will share some heart-grabbing details that will give us shining wisdom and a vivid witness. By focusing on what we can learn from this illuminated, purposeful life, we can then find strength and encouragement to accept our own reality and strive to align our lives and brighten our internal flame with greater authenticity and a more polished acceptance of who we are created to be. Welcome, Shawn.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Usually when I start these, I like to kind of talk about when we met. And so I think it was in Fishing Touches. Is that your memory?
I'll go with that.
Okay, so his wife Kelly wrote a book, Fractured, Not Broken, and she was doing a book signing. So I think he talked to a lot of people that day, but I think that's when I met you. And then we had several different things that we connected on throughout the years. And so I really appreciate you being here and telling us more about who you are. I have a feeling a lot of times people are talking about Kelly.
That's for sure.
And there's a reason
Rightfully
for that
so,
because
yes.
she's an amazing, impressive woman. But now we kind of want to know about you and your side of things. I was texting you when we were talking about this podcast. You talked about that you have 4 mindsets. And I kind of jotted them down here so that I could remember. And I'd just like to ask when you decided on those 4 mindsets. Was it for this podcast, or have you had them for a while?
No, yeah, it was just after you had mentioned the opportunity to do this. I just started kind of thinking about what would make sense if I was sharing a story. And so the reality of it is some of it's embedded into teaching. I have had the privilege of being in the classroom now for 14 years as a teacher. And so some things have evolved through that. Some of the mindsets, there's a credit to either videos or people that I've learned from along the way. And I think part of it is just life experience. Definitely not mindsets I've always had. Okay. But as we are all developing and growing each and every day, I'm a work in progress. And so as of now, that's, I guess, how I look at it. So can we talk about each one of these? Absolutely.
And I think I missed the word. It's can-do mindset?
Yeah, so a can mindset.
A can mindset.
And
okay,
I do think there's sort of an order to them.
Okay.
And I can explain more about that. But the can mindset really evolved from, there's a famous duo called Team Hoyt. It's a father-son. The father's name is Dick and the son's name is Rick. And they both passed within the last few years. But the son had a disability that he was born with, and it's a very common one, and I don't know why I can't think of the word right now, but nonetheless, the father realized, I think at some point, that the son was going to just exist basically in a room his whole life. And so the father committed himself to train, and they ended up doing 30 Boston Marathons and 6 Ironmans. And by doing it, what I mean is the father either pushed, pulled, or carried his son, the son at this point was a full-grown man. So it's incomprehensible to me. I mean, when I was younger, if I ever had a prime in my late 20s, I did a few half marathons, and I did one Olympic triathlon, which is far less than an Ironman. And I barely got to the finish line. And I trained for 5 or 6 months, and it took everything I had. And so for me to look at this man who's in his 50s or 60s pushing, pulling, carrying another full-grown man. It's extraordinary. And so anyway, they have this video, and one of the versions is to the song I Can Only Imagine. And the beginning and end of the video, the 3-letter word can appears. And that nothing is mentioned about it, but it's just on the screen. And so after seeing that video, it became something I start every semester with every new class. On day one, at the end of class, that's what we watch. And then I talk about it the next day in terms of having this mindset. And I see it in them, of course. I see it in my wife, Kelly. And so what my message to the students is remove the word can't from your vocabulary. And so the next time you say it, catch yourself saying it and turn it around. And it's just, you haven't done it yet. You haven't worked hard enough. You haven't been resourceful enough, whatever the case may be. So I think there's power in that. And at one point, can't remember if it was my wife or a student, but someone had said to me, well, Shawn, wait a minute. Like, you say it's the most powerful 3-letter word in the English language, because I have become accustomed to saying that. And they said, well, isn't God a 3-letter word? I said, that's fair. I'll call it the second most powerful 3-letter word. So anyway, that's a little bit about the can mindset.
Yeah, I remember I can visualize that father-son duo. And
admittedly, the credit goes, I mean, had I never watched that video, never seen, but from that, it's become sort of a mantra.
That's terrific. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pursuit of happiness.
Yes. In fact, just on Monday, so towards the end of the school year, when I feel like I've developed a relationship with students and earned the credibility, so next week we have final exams. And so late in the week, it's about preparing for those. But at the start of the week, I deliver we spend most of the class period focused on this idea of the pursuit of happiness. And I start by showing a screenshot of the famous movie Pursuit of Happiness, which was created in 2006. It stars Will Smith and some others. And it's a great movie. And I used that intro for a couple of reasons. I talk about how Will Smith was this incredibly talented entertainer, both a musician and then actor and producer, and then how more recently there was an award show and the MC had said something and he didn't receive it well. It was about his ex-wife, and he went on stage and hit the MC. And so I just talked to my students about how you can spend a long time building up credibility or trust, have a lot of fans or a lot of people that admire you, and then in a short instant, a lot of that can change. And so certainly for him, in that moment, an awful lot of people see him differently.
Right.
However, if we're honest, all of us have those moments. They look different. They happen in different ways, but we all fall short. And so I think it's a little short-sighted to judge him and say, oh, he's a terrible person. I mean, he lost self-control, and it was very damaging. But I digress. So the pursuit of happiness then centers around me talking to them about 6 significant events that have happened in my life. 4 of the 6, when I woke up that day, I had no idea it was going to happen. And several of them were tragic and very difficult. But on the other side of it, and by that I mean like years later, I can look back and say, it changed me for the better. They're the sorts of things you wouldn't wish upon anyone, but as Kelly has, made it clear by just how she lives her life, like when a tragic event happens, you can choose to take one of 2 paths. You can go down a dark path, or you can find a way forward. So after talking about these 6 different events, I try to then bring it back to where I started. And actually, I didn't mention where I start after the whole intro with the Pursuit of Happiness movie. I then ask him, if you interviewed millions of young adults or young adolescents and you said, what is it that you want out of life? I'm convinced that the 2 most common responses to that question would be happiness or success. I feel like that would be the response more often than not. And that's great. In some ways, it's like the paradox of life, because most people desire it. And if people were being honest when they get further along in life and you said, well, do you feel like you're successful or happy? I think a far fewer percentage of people would be able to say that than the ones that said that's what they desire. And so if that's what everyone desires, then why is it so difficult for that to be achieved? And so anyhow, when I'm bringing it back at the end, I talk about the fact that part of the challenge for that is no one can define success for you. Like, you're going to see quotes about it. You're going to hear there's books written about it. The reality is you have to figure out what success looks like. And the other hard part about it is it changes over time. Like, what you see it as when you're 14 years old as an 8th grader, and what you see it as when you're 21 years old in college, and so throughout your life, how you view success is going to change. And then the same could be said for happiness. And so I try to talk about the difference between fun and happiness, that a lot of people get caught up in fun, and fun is temporary. I have the privilege of teaching a course called Personal Finance, and the curriculum is based primarily on Ramsey education. And so Dave Ramsey at one point talks about the difference between fun and happiness, and how a lot of people chase fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we should enjoy life, but happiness is more of a state of contentment that that isn't necessarily as fleeting. So I just try to talk about how, when it comes to seeking happiness and seeking success, to understand that a lot of it is worldly. So it's never a bad thing to have a plan. By nature, I'm a planner, but I've learned enough with these 6 events that a lot of times the plan that God has had for me has been so much better than my own. I didn't know it at the time, but it's very clear looking in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
So just that as they move forward, to pursue whatever their passion and purpose is relentlessly, but try to be open to whatever God is doing in their life, and understand that even when it's not what they're envisioning, it may just be better.
Yeah. It's hard to handle those things that come at us, that shock us, and feel like there's no way God can be involved in it. And sometimes evil does exist, and it does happen, but God promises that he will take everything and use it for good. And it's the waiting for that.
Absolutely.
To discover that
Absolutely.
is incredibly challenging.
In our humanity, we don't we're not saying, give me more trials, give me more struggles, I want more hardship. I don't know anybody that says that.
No.
Because in the midst of it, that doesn't feel good.
It is not
We
fun.
don't enjoy that. But usually through that, it shapes us,
Right.
It changes us, and never does God say, hey, I'm putting you here and I'm promised to give you an easy life. That's not the message.
No.
He just says, listen, like, I will be with you along the way, and I will carry you when you need me to, And so that kind of leads to one of the other mindsets.
Trust.
Yeah. For 9 years, I was a CPA. Thoroughly enjoyed it, most of it. It was sort of in my DNA. My two grandfathers, my father, and two or three of my uncles all chose that career path. They did different things with it, but it's what I knew. I enjoyed numbers. I like to tell my students math is like the international language. Anyhow, I studied accounting. I became a CPA for 9 years. I never really knew what my end goal was, and that always bothered me because I think a lot of times it's healthy to have like the end in mind. There's a book, New York Times bestseller, Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's one of them. So that was always bothersome. Like when I first started, I thought, at this CPA firm, I want to be a partner. Well, and that's naive because I was a young staff, and I worked 5 or 6 years, and I got far enough along with promotions to see what partners did. And I quickly realized, no, I don't. Yeah. Like they work the hardest, they travel a lot. I mean, it just wasn't what I desired for a lifestyle. And then I was challenged with, well, if I leave the CPA firm, I still don't know what my end goal is. And I guess fortunately I didn't have to, but I didn't realize it at the time. So when I married Kelly, and I moved to Jasper, which is her hometown, I worked in accounting for 1 year, and it was my least enjoyable year of my career. And so the work that I had previously done, I couldn't do it locally. So one of two things was going to have to happen. Either we were going to have to move, or Kelly said, well, just choose a different path. And so I was grateful for that because it never crossed my mind. Like you have this mentality of be a provider, build career equity. I mean, so it's illogical. I also, in the back of my head, knew my parents had put me through school. I mean, such a gift. I came out of school without debt. And I knew the sacrifices they had made for that to happen. So going to them at some point and saying, hey, I've decided to change,
right.
But they understood, and they've always been awesome in my life at just being a supporter. They never questioned. They never made me feel bad about it. They just were encouraging, and they, I think, ultimately just said, do what is best for you. And it's still to this day been a wonderful foundation. Like it's helped us in our personal life. It's helped me in the classroom. I'm a math and business teacher. So it's never as if it didn't go away.
Skills,
right. Yeah. So spent 10 years at this public high school. My first 4 were in math. My next 6 were teaching business classes. And then an opportunity opened up. I wasn't looking. I was good where I was, but at the school where my wife Kelly teaches, and then where our kids go to school, there was an opening for a position. And so it was too good to, like God said, here you go. And so when that happened, Kelly said, if you're going to have a theme for your classroom, give me one word, and then I'll kind of create the classroom environment for you. And so after thinking about it, I told her, well, that word would be trust. And so that became sort of the theme of the room. And still to this day now, over and over, my students hear me talk about the importance of honesty and how all good relationships are built on trust. And as soon as trust is broken, relationships are damaged. And that's true if it's your relationship with God. It's true if it's your relationship with your family, student, teacher, friends, coworkers, dating. It doesn't matter. So I preach about that quite often. And certainly when it comes to trust with God, I mean, we're all challenged throughout life with that because our faith walk ebbs and flows. And in the hard moments, it's easy to have that trust be shaken.
Yeah.
So yeah, that again has come with age and life experience, and
yeah. Can you give us a brief description of sacrificial love? I think we'll be talking a little bit more about it in the next episode.
Sure.
So kind of give us a highlight of that.
The quick highlight of that would be, again, probably didn't see it when I was younger, but as I've gotten older and paid more attention, I've realized that, again, the ultimate example would be Jesus. God giving his one and only son to die on the cross for all of us for salvation. So it starts there. But I've been really fortunate with grandparents, with parents, with my in-laws, with my wife, with a lot of people around me, a close family friend by the name of Dana, who I can speak to more later. But there's so many people I've been blessed by in my life. And what I've realized is the secret sauce is they have sacrificial love. They live their life in a way that is selfless, that is doing for others. And through that, first they're a witness to Jesus. But beyond that, you can see the strength in them as individuals, but also in their relationships. So,
terrific. Well, thank you so much. That's going to finish it up for session 1, but we'll have you back next week to discuss more. Thank you all for joining us. Come back next week. We'll have more with Shawn Schaefer. Stay blessed, y'all.
Thank you.